This is a pretty popular one, obviously, because it's about the RIOT MMO. Everyone's the biggest hopium for MMO players for the next 6 years. Yeah, but there's this interview with Kanon, RIOT MMO details revealed, interview with director Greg Street, Ghost Crawler. I'm not gonna... Yeah, it's fine.
Bringing
Let's
you an
go into
exclusive
it.
interview with the upcoming RIOT MMORPG director, Greg Street, also known as Ghost Crawler. This is a small segment from a 2-hour interview that I had with Greg. So if you want to watch the full interview, be sure to subscribe to the channel so you'll be notified when it drops. Also, I'm streaming live on Twitch 5 to 6 days a week, so visit me there. It's the best way to connect with me personally.
What?
And let's begin.
What content is this guy making? Because I've never heard of him.
What's up, everyone? Today we are
Top MMOs, Keen Blunt versus Cursed Dolly. Engravings. NA tier list. Current NA class tier list. This is Lost Ark. So he plays Lost Ark, I guess. Lost Ark. I guess. Videos. Lost Ark. Torchlight. Okay, so he's an overall MMO guy. I do love, like, I'm not gonna say he's like a tiny creator, like 70k is massive, but it's not, you know, like a million and stuff like that. So I do appreciate that Ghost Crow is doing interviews with like people who are like less known. And again, 70k is decently known, don't get me wrong, but he is less known than in the MMO sphere, at least like less than Asmongold, Rich. Even MMO Byte has like 800k, but he has like almost no views, right? Because it's all clickbait. But yeah. Lazy Peon, you know. Narc. Well, sorry, not Narc. Wow. Necrit is doing a bunch of League of Legends stuff in Kanon, so I would expect him to have an interview. Maybe they did as well. Maybe he just didn't publish it yet, but yeah.
Right. I do want to talk to you about monetization, but before I ask that question, what do you think separates games like WoW and Final Fantasy 14 from the others that just don't make it? Like, what is...
Bro, always ask him stuff that has to do with WoW. He's probably one of the most well-beloved creator developers from WoW. Not because he was a great at it or whatever, because he was at least transparent and communicative. I don't know the quality of his work, even though it wasn't bad overall. But at least he was the most communicative developer out there, and he didn't take stuff like seriously and shit. Like if people are trolling him or like being mean, he's like, yeah, whatever, like brush it off and keep working.
What is it about them? I mean, is it just the budget? Is it
but
the creative
clearly
design?
If he moved away from WoW, which is an MMORPG, into League of Legends, clearly shows problems with like the WoW team, you know.
That's behind is a team that's running it. I mean, it could be multiple things, but it just you know, there's plenty of good ideas, and there's plenty of, I'm sure every MMO that comes out, it's like, hey, we feel like we can do this better. And I love the fact that when we talked earlier, you're talking about, hey, I think one of the things that Riot does very well is they look at games like Dota and think, hey, maybe we could do this better by doing this and this, and they've just had they've had solid success with that. I'm sure that's the mindset with a lot of MMO developers, but they still just don't make it. Like, I would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think you're right that budget is part of it. Like, again, thinking of raiding, it's a spectacle. And in Final Fantasy, when a boss comes down and like maybe the guitar kicks in or something, like they don't mind making like custom music for boss fights and stuff like that. Like it is something amazing to see. And
it is. I would say Final Fantasy is a much bigger spectacle than WoW raid bosses by far. I can't even think of one raid boss in WoW, except maybe Ragnaros for its time, like classic Ragnaros, that was an actual spectacle. It's usually like, oh, there's the boss, we got him killed. He's just standing in the middle of the room. Sometimes he walks around the room, but it's like, you know, meanwhile, you go into a raid in Final Fantasy and it's like, shit goes down, and especially normal raid, there's always like a kind of like a transition type phase with like a mini cinematic, or the music changes a bit, stuff like that. Not always, but like it is pretty common.
You can make a really, really fun encounter that's pretty much just like a big ogre dude hitting you, but it's just not the same epic scale. It's not the sense of like, this is something. But yeah, budget's part of it. I also think the bigger games, and maybe the ones with the bigger budget, are just better at serving a broader audience. So say you make an MMO and you're like,
and
hey,
that's I think this is the biggest thing that MMOs have going for them, that I don't think any MMO is capitalizing in, except like Final Fantasy does it a bit. Guild Wars 2 does it a bit. WoW doesn't do will do it a bit now with dragon riding, if they actually like put their mind to it and like actually use it and stuff. And it's not even so much as like content outside of progression. It's more like you can literally do any game you want inside of an MMO to an extent. You can do racing. Obviously, Final Fantasy has Chocobo Racing. Guild Wars 2 has their own like player made race houses, basically, right? You can honestly even do shooters, like straight up. You can do a mini shooter game inside, which, by the way, again, Final Fantasy kind of does it with that gold saucer, stuff like that. But you can make a lot of different types of mini games inside of an MMO, and I don't see why more don't do it. Even WoW does the what's it called, the Pokemon game, right? And again, as much as I don't like it, I think it's cool that they have it. But MMO, the possibilities are really endless, and I don't know if it's like because of engine problem, because of like dev time or stuff like that, but it's like they can make so many side games inside of MMO. You can literally attract everyone you want, except maybe like the hot, like you can attract people from any genre of any game. Obviously not the top tier of those players, because there's a reason they're top tier in those games. It's like it's the competitiveness. But like if someone just likes shooters on the side, you can do a mini shooter inside of WoW, inside of Final Fantasy, inside of Guild Wars 2.
This MMO is PvP only because we think we can just make a better game if it's PvP. Well, you could probably guess there are going to be players that are like, well, I'm out. That's not me.
Yeah, straight
Final
up.
Fantasy has a great like crafting game. It has a great social game. It lets you decorate your houses. So it serves players a lot of really different motivations.
Yep.
Right. I don't know if you can answer this, but do you feel comfortable with the budget that you have for the Riot MMO?
Oh, that's actually a really interesting question. I think I can answer it. One of the nice things about Riot is we're not going to run out of money, right? I'm not going to have a publisher that's like, hey, if you got to ship by Christmas or we're canceling.
Yeah, I heard that Riot is letting him take as long as he needs. Like not him, like the team. They're like, take as long as you need to make this MMO happen. Just make it happen, and we want good quality. We don't have a deadline for you. Here's money. Let's make it happen. And that's fantastic.
Riot will cancel this game if the game isn't good enough. They're not going to cancel the game because it gets too expensive. And those go hand in hand. We could make a very expensive bad game, and then I would get fired. We could make a less expensive game that still really captures hearts and minds, but it's not a blank check, right? Like I have
obviously.
to prove, and the team has to prove that whatever Riot is putting into it is worth it, because they could spend the money somewhere else. They could make a different game. They could double down on Valorant or something. So it's definitely not a blank check, but it's also not like we're not a startup where, oh gosh, we're out of money. What are we going to do? I can always go back and ask for more. Whether or not I get more is going to depend a lot on what they think. How does the game look? What do playtesters say?
Yeah.
How are we doing, about hitting our milestones? So that is how, in the very simplest sense, you can think of it as you get some money. If you spend it well, they're going to give you more. If you don't spend it well, you probably don't.
Yeah, you lost your chance. 100%.
That game, it would just get shit canned.
That's awesome. Yeah. But I think that distinction, I think, is massive. Not only from not only from your perspective, but especially from the consumer's perspective. Like just knowing that, hey, this MMO that's coming out, it's like money isn't the issue. They'll cancel it if it's not good. So like even that, like just that notion, it's like If this MMO were to be canceled,
Yeah,
I would
cut
be
your
devastated.
losses.
I'd be really disappointed. I think
A lot of people
everyone
will.
in the MMO
A
world
lot of people will be
the MMO
devastated
community
for
would
sure.
be pretty devastated that it got canceled. But at the same token, I think it would bring another level of respect and be like, hey man, at the end of the day, it wasn't a money thing. It just wasn't good enough. They just maybe they'll revisit it later. You know, like
Bro, you would have to really mess up to make the right MMO not good enough. Like, you have to make it so unplayable. Like, I can't even imagine how bad the game will have to be for it to not be I wouldn't say a resounding success, but it's like for it to just be cancelled outright, be like, you know what? No, fuck it, cut our losses, just delete, we're not doing the MMO. It would be insanely hard for me to comprehend how bad you have to mess it up.
I would have a lot of respect for a company that you know would cancel a game because of that, rather than the actual money that's going into it. That's really, yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. The disappointment from players, and I understand there'd be disappointment. I'd be disappointed. But that's coming from, oh, I had such high hopes for this game, and I'm disappointed that it didn't get there. And
right.
They don't want a bad game. They don't want us to like
the
game no matter what. They want a good game, and that's
absolutely.
You know, if we can't deliver a good game, what are we doing?
Absolutely, absolutely. So one of the things that the game does need to do is it needs to generate revenue. Okay, so I'd love to get your thoughts on the differences between, from your perspective as the guy that needs to generate the revenue. Love to hear your thoughts on a sub-based model versus a free-to-play model.
You know, the truth is they're both viable.
Honestly, I don't know which one I prefer. I'm not gonna lie. I honestly, overall, I like the ESO the ESO monetization the most, in a sense. Not the loot or whatever, not the loot box and stuff, but like the game is buy to play. You don't need a sub, but the sub does get you certain things. I kind of like it. However, I feel there are many problems with it. Like, for example, like there's just not enough bank space, right? However, the way I see it is like you can play this game for free, which is pretty much a triple. Like it's an A+ game, right? It's like it's a very good game. You can play this game for free, and you can sub, which would get you like the full experience, right? In a sense. So for example, like in WoW, if you would take away the sub, you would have to take some stuff with it, right? But the way ESO did it, it's like we don't have a sub. Well, they used to, but not anymore. We don't have a sub, but you get stuff with your sub. It's kind of like a slightly different mentality in a sense, but I feel like it. And also, if you pay the sub for just like the first month, put everything in your like bank and stuff, that is gonna have a lot more room. It's not like it's gonna disappear if you stop paying the sub. You just be overflowing the bank, right? And then like whenever you need to like restock your bank again, pay the sub again, right? So I kind of like that more overall. Also, it gives you the coins for the shop and stuff. So I overall like the ESO model.
What you get in a sub-based model is fewer players, because fewer players can afford it, but are a very steady revenue stream. So you might say, I would rather 1 million players who pay me $15 a month regularly than 5 million players who sometimes pay and sometimes don't.
Yeah.
That's just, that's just the economics of it. So generally, if you want to go free to play, it's because you think you can have a lot of players and you'll be okay even if they don't individually spend a lot of money. You'll have a lot of players who spend nothing. You'll have some players who spend more, but on average, you're assuming they're not going to pay that much, and you make up for it with side. And
the thing is, here the easiest way to make money on a free-to-play, well, obviously is cosmetics, but there's a specific cosmetic that no matter what, people are gonna buy that cosmetic. Wings. I don't know what it is. MMO players love their wings, bro. Give them shiny wings. Give them like different types of wings to fit with their mog and shit. Give people wings. People are gonna buy it. It's like, can be free to play. Just every other month, make new wings. People are gonna spend the money.
You see that a lot of mobile games, not just mobile MMOs, but mobile games in general. assume that they don't have very long a lifespan, so they need to like make money right away, you know,
Right
big
away.
body right away, because then people are gonna drop them and move on to the next thing. It's also interesting that in China, a little less so Korea, but still more so I think than in the West, the notion of pay for power is not as, you know, it's almost repulsive to a lot of Western players, because
Yeah.
they're like,
Oh yeah, for
it
Western,
comes to
yeah.
them as like, well, that's not fair. Like, why should
I
that
thought for
person
China it was.
have better gear than me when they just spent money on it?
Yeah, but if you're, I don't want to sound like racist or anything like that, but it's like, I'm assuming the mentality is like, in real life you can pay for power. Why can't I do it in the game? Where in the game you should be able to do what you can do in real life and then some. So in the game, I'm not justifying it, by the way. I do not agree with pay for power. But I'm saying this might be the mentality. In a game, if I have money, I have power. In real life, if I have money, I have power. In the game, if you have money from real life, you should have the power, right? I think that's the mentality. Also, it's a massive time saver and stuff like that. Obviously, I don't think it's a, like I do not understand buying power because I feel like I didn't earn it, but because my mentality is not working with the sense of like, well, I worked outside of the game to make my in-game better, right? I just can't connect those two, but maybe that's what people like, that's how they justify it to themselves with buying power, to the point where like I can't even buy items of the auction house on like a main character. I will not buy items of the auction house to power up my character because I feel like I didn't really earn it, even though me making the gold and buying it with gold is directly correlated. I just can't, right? Same with like character boost. Like I can't boost a character that I never played. Like if I start a rogue in World of Warcraft and I never played a rogue, character boosting it will not make me want to play it anymore because I didn't earn that level. Like that's how my mentality works. But I understand the mentality of like, well, I'm just saving myself some time.
Right.
But at least to a Chinese mindset, sometimes they're thinking, well, I don't want to spend a lot of time grinding to get this item. Why can't I just queue to get it right away and get to the good stuff? Maybe I just want to raid. Let me skip to the good stuff.
Yeah, but I think like maybe Westerns work in like reverse mentality where it's like, I don't want to spend a lot of time to get this item. Meanwhile, Westerners like, these developers made it a lot of time in order for me to spend money. Does that make sense? Like it's reverse psychology. I guess maybe it's reverse psychology. But like, yeah, you're thinking in reverse, right? It's like they made the game worse, so you are encouraged to pay, rather than it's like the game is good, but you can pay.
Particularly, this was more true in both Korea and China when a lot of gamers had to play it at PC bongs or PC cafes, because they were literally paying for the hour.
Yeah.
Right. So rather than paying per hour to get 100 hours to get a sword, let me just buy the sword and skip all that stuff.
Yeah.
So we're not going to do pay to win. We're not going to do pay to power. I'm pretty confident saying that.
That's a big one.
I probably said that, or a lot of players.
Well, again, they're a Western company. They know their market. Even though, like, I'm sure China and Korea are gonna be a massive market for Riot, they're still making this with Westerners in mind, right?
It's just not Riot's style. Right. We really want players to feel like they're welcome back in the game at any time. And yeah, if life is rough right now and you're between jobs or you just can't, can't pay for the subscription, I'd rather them not churn out rather than be able to keep playing.
That's very similar to Final Fantasy mentality, like how they view. Well, not necessarily about the lack of money, but more like, I just don't have time right now, I don't want to play or whatever. Like sometimes, take a break from the game, play other games and stuff like that. And I feel like that's a very healthy mentality for gamers. That mentality, what he's saying, sounds like it doesn't come from a developer. It sounds like someone who is a gamer understands gamers, right? It's like not a lot of gamers are a one-game Andy. Even Asmongold, who is a one-game Andy World of Warcraft, he plays other games. He plays Lost Ark like off stream sometimes. Like he does like content for Lost Ark. He played some Final Fantasy. He tries other games. He plays in Elden Ring. He played shooters, right? He's a gamer overall. He doesn't just play WoW, even though that is his main game. And I feel like that's what most people have. They have a main game. Sometimes they take a break from, and they play other games here and there. Me specifically, I honestly at this point I don't even know if I can consider myself having a main game. I play the most Final Fantasy 14, but it's because there's just shit to do right now, and as soon as I'm done with that shit, I'll play something else probably, right?
So that's why Riot
Allow
has
them to tell.
traditionally liked free to play with purely cosmetic purchases. But again,
Is that enough though? For an because an MMO, again, I'm very ignorant to the game development and the budget side of things when it comes to MMO. But I would imagine that it's very expensive to maintain and run and create an MMORPG.
It really sucks. It is true though. Probably, I would wager that MMO is probably the most expensive type of game to make. MMOs are games that are supposed to last a lifetime, not a few years and then shut down like Terra or whatever. Even though I'm sure Terra made its money at some point. But MMOs are games that are supposed to grow with the person. And I feel like the biggest problem with MMOs right now, their player base is old. I don't know a lot of new, I don't know a lot of people anyways, but it's like, you don't see a lot of MMO content creators who are like under 30. Okay, or like about to reach 30. Okay, the player base is very, very old. MMOs are, in my opinion, should be a very casual friendly, somebody who has a job and sometimes like logs in to play. But the problem is, I would say shooters are usually even more casual friendly, because like, well, just log in and shoot, right? It's like unwind if you want or whatever. So it's hard for me to like, they have to make the MMO super, super appealing to younger crowds. And because they are using the world of Runeterra, which is League of Legends, and a lot of League of Legends players are younger, they might already have that appeal by default. But it is really hard to appeal to a younger crowd with MMOs, because younger crowd, fucking Minecraft or some shit. What do you call it? That other stupid game, the battle royale that Ninja plays, forgot the name, right? It's like, that's what young people like, and it's like, good luck getting them into an MMO where they have to spend so much of their time in, right?
Is it like, is it feasible? Is it
probably
feasible?
the most expensive kind of game to make.
Right, I would think so.
Yeah.
Is it feasible
The
to have?
other thing close is like huge open world,
Right.
Horizon Zero Dawn, Assassin's Creed, Red Dead Redemption style. Those are also very expensive, but
Really?
MMO needs everything. It needs.
Right.
I would say are they as expensive though? Because they're single player. So like, yeah, I know like developing them is expensive, but it's like you don't have to pay maintenance on them anymore. Once they're out, right? Whereas like an MMO, you still have to upkeep, you still have to keep developing stuff. That, I guess maybe the question was just to create, so the creation part probably is the same, or like, about the same. But like the maintenance cost that will have to come with an MMO is also something there.
Matchmaking, it needs a chat system, it needs,
Yeah.
a gear system. It just, every system you can imagine. So yeah, they're very expensive to build, and if it's a super content heavy game, they're also very expensive to run.
Absolutely.
If it's a more PvP based game or a more sandbox game, it's less expensive to run because players are providing a lot of content.
Sandbox, yeah,
Right,
yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Is it feasible for a large scale MMO, like a big budget MMO, to sustain with a free to play model that just monetizes off of cosmetics?
I think it's possible.
Because like for me, I'm thinking like, no. Like for me, like technically, theoretically, yes. Obviously, if everyone is buying these costumes and stuff, yeah, sure. I know for a fact it would be, but like,
you'd always have the one player who's a completion, not even one. I would say one in like 20 players who's a completionist that's just gonna buy every new outfit that comes out, every new cosmetic that comes out. They're just gonna buy it, and that one player supplements for the 20 players around him. And even those, out of those 20 players, at least a few of them are gonna buy something from the store, not only because they want something, but because they would also feel obliged to support the game developer that is providing them with such a good game. Right, if the game is good, obviously. I've done many times. I am not somebody who spends on a game, but when I really like a game and I know I'm not getting cheated out of my money, especially if it's free to play, I will buy some shit just as a support, because I was like, yeah, this is good shit. you know. And not only that, they also have the statistics that show what kind of items people usually buy. Wings, by the way, wings. I'm telling you right now, wings. Just make wings, flashy, super shiny, big wings. You got it. And that would make them make more of that stuff, right?
Like honestly, like realistically, I feel like the answer to that is no. What would you say?
No, we've done the math, and I think there is a world that works out. Like,
Really?
you can have enough players who are willing to pay enough on cosmetics to fund a really big game.
Really? Like how often would you expect, in order for that to work, how often would you expect to have to like release new cosmetics? Because obviously you can't release one new cosmetic a year.
Once every 3 months.
Like no one's gonna buy, right? That's not enough money.
Once every 3 months, release a few cosmetics of the same genre, similar to how they do with League. I think that is more than enough.
And I also know from experience that players resent when they feel like you're spending too much development effort on cosmetics. Like, to look at League of Legends, for example, if we stopped making champions and just kept making skins, at some point players are like, well, this kind of sucks. You're only focused on the money-making side of the game.
I wouldn't mind that, only if instead of making new champions, they would focus on balancing the current ones. Making ones that are like kind of like obsolete, never played, remake them. You don't have to make a new champion, just make the old ones more in line with the current ones. Because right now they make what some people like to call the 10-year champion, that they're like so overloaded in their kit that this champion's gonna last forever. Meanwhile, you have champions that's like, oh well, this does a dash. Oh well, this does this, or this does this. Meanwhile, some champions, this Q does this, your Q ability does this, but in this condition does this, and if you're in a brush, it does this, and if you're here, it does this. Like, oh my fucking god, right? Overloaded kits, which is fine because it makes the game more complex, but I feel like the old champions are really suffering because of it. Anyways, this is not about League.
So you need to do both. You need to make sure the game balance is good. You need to update everything that you can in order for players to feel good about it. So, yeah, again, we don't even know for sure exactly.
Yeah, obviously you're too early.
I've done the math enough to convince myself that if we said, yeah, can you launch a game with just cosmetics? Probably you can.
Okay, interesting.
And again, it also depends. Like, for example, take Guild Wars 2, for example. Look at all the mounts that they have that are very unique in their abilities. Each of those mounts have viable skins, right? The glider is the best one because it has like wing alterations and stuff like that. Like those ones, like probably like the best ones to like monetize on. So these are all cosmetics. Then you have outfits. Then you have weapon enchants, right? Then you have like something like your boots can leave behind a trail, right? Shit like that. All of these like effects you can add onto the cosmetic part. It's not like, well, here's like some clothes, right? It's like mounts, what do you call it? Effects, obviously appearances, tattoos, certain hairs, right? Like how what's it called? How Final Fantasy does, like they have certain hair designs that you can monetize a lot on appearances.
Interesting.
Toys, right?
So obviously you just stated, as far as the RIOT MMO goes, there's no confirmation, there's none of that. But for you personally, what do you, as a gamer, what do you personally prefer? Do you personally prefer to play a sub-to-play game or a free-to-play game that has cash shop, that has an in-game cash shop?
Yeah, the one thing that bothers me about a sub is kind of the guilt of, I'm paying for this game and I'm not playing it right now. And so for a game like World of Warcraft, I came back and played the last expansion. And then when I stopped playing, I felt like, well, the right thing to do is to cancel my subscription.
Yeah.
Right.
But then if I want to jump in and play one night, well, am I going to start my subscription up again?
Like, yeah, for 30. Yeah, I'm going to resub for 30 days because I want to, like, one night I just want to do some Mythic Plus. It's like, yeah, it sucks. Because honestly, here's the thing. If I didn't have a sub for a while, I would probably play it from time to time, do like a Mythic Plus. Sometimes you get the itch, right? But because I know it's a sub, actually the sub keeps me away from the game, if anything. The sub makes me not want to replay the game. Because it's like, well, I just want to jump into a Mythic Plus, see what's up. But like, no, you can't do that. Because now you have to pay for 30 days. And it's like, and you just think about as the commitment, like, oh my god, bro. Okay, so well, I guess I'll have to log in every day and like refarm gold for that token because it's not worth it.
There to really fitting in how I play. Whereas like if I want to play Valorant, I'll just pick up Valorant. If I want to put Valorant down for 6 months and pick it up again, great, I'll do that.
A pickup game,
There are battle passes and things like that
but it doesn't matter.
But overall, I think that's the one flaw in the subscription model is as a player, you feel like the right thing to do is to turn it on and off all the time.
Right.
Kind of a habit.
Right. What do you?
Yeah, but like, let's be real. The 800,000 players that are left in World of Warcraft. I'm just throwing a number out of my ass, but like, it's pretty much there. Up until like the Dragonflight expansion information was out. It was about there. A lot of those players have been paying for like a 6-month sub, like recurring 6-month subs for years, right? It's like at this point, those are the players who didn't quit.
What do you think about the games that are free to play but have like a subscription option where you get bonus stuff like extra loot drop percentage, extra experience?
No, that's pay to win.
A lot of games do that. Like BDO does it, even Lost Ark does it too.
But that's pay to win.
What do you think about that model?
I think as a player, I think that's pretty cool because it gives you the option to kind of pay how you want. If you're like, hey, I'm not ready to commit money to this game, awesome. But if you're like, no, I'm in, I know I'm going to spend lots and lots of hours in this game. I don't mind, spending a little more for a better experience. I think that's pretty cool. It is, again, like I said before, with the pay for power, it's a slippery slope, and you can easily turn off players if you're too heavy handed with that.
Nice. Yeah. I feel like that response at the end there, like if you read too much into it, you're like, oh, that's it. It's pay to win. It's pay to gain power. It's pay to power. It's it's like you could have easily interpreted it. I don't think he's gonna do it, as he already said he won't. And that was just his opinion on it as a gamer. And I think that's fine. I think like it is cool to be like, well, I can pay more and like I don't have to grind as hard. I think that is cool, but I also think it's a very, very bad as game design. It's cool for the player for the moment, but as a long term for the game, it's really bad because then you are either forced to pay, or you feel like the game is purposely holding you back if you don't. Either way, you're forced to pay. Yeah, anyways, that's a good interview. He has like really good questions. I actually will probably watch the whole 2-hour interview. That was actually like really good. I'm a sub and give him a like for sure. What is the thing? It says down the record for the highly anticipated RIOT MMO for an exclusive interview in this 12-minute teaser. Can Greg discuss the monetary side of MMOs, including He has a podcast too. Everyone has a podcast these days, man. Joe Rogan, what have you done? Anyways, that's the video. Like, comment, subscribe, and we'll go to the next one. Peace.